On today's Andy Ari on 3 presented by BetMGM, it is a Mega Board Wednesday. We are cruising around the message boards across the On3 network. And we start with a thread examining Bruce Pearl's comments about the Miami of Ohio basketball team. I know what you're saying. A MAC basketball conversation? No. This will turn into very much a football conversation, a college football playoff conversation, and a college football scheduling conversation. And I think you're going to be surprised which side you come out on at the end. Plus, we welcome Bruin Report, the UCLA site, and Buff Stampede, the Colorado site, to the On3 family. And of course, we've got some great stories talking about the Bruins and about the Buffs going into next college football season. Also, Kentucky's looking for a new AD. Who should they be looking at to replace Mitch Barnhart, the longest tenured AD in the SEC, and who will want the job knowing that Mitch Barnhart is hanging around for almost 7 figures a year for the next 4 years. Also, the jersey patch wars have begun. Arkansas has revealed who their jersey patch will be and also how much of that money is going toward the players. We'll talk about it all on Andy and Ari on 3 presented by BetMGM. This show is presented by BetMGM, and there's no better place to be during March matchups than Las Vegas. This year, college basketball fans can win a VIP trip to the Court of Legends event featuring the Cavender twins. Simply place sports bets, and your position on the leaderboard will determine if you win one of the 25 grand prize packages. Just sign into your BetMGM account, opt into the promotion, and start placing sports bets of at least $10 to climb the leaderboard. Make this March one to remember. Join the Court of Legends leaderboard and make it legendary. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, don't forget to use code CFB, that's CFB is in college football, to claim your new player offer worth up to $1,500 off your first wager with BetMGM. So come see us on the Court of Legends and make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3 presented by BetMGM. It's a Mega Board Wednesday, and the boards are popping for various reasons, Ari. We've got Kentucky basketball fans. Well, they have an AD search going on now, so they're talking about that. But also their team went from up 12 with 8 minutes to go in the first half to down 12 by halftime and lost to Texas A&M. So they're all in their feelings. We're going to talk about KSR and those folks later in the show. I would like to start, though, with a thread from Bama Online. And this started out as, I think, a way to troll Auburn. But I think it's turned into a bigger discussion. And even within the thread, it turned into a bigger discussion, probably took a different turn than the person who posted it thought. So Gisson on the Bama Online thread posted this on Sunday because Bruce Pearl, who works for CBS now, said something interesting that got everybody's attention in the college basketball world. So little background, Miami of Ohio currently undefeated. They actually won last night by 2 to run their record to 30-0. But the fear is if they were to lose a game, they have one more regular season game against Ohio U on Friday night, and then the MAC tournament's next week. And they would have to win 3 games in the MAC tournament to win the tournament. But if they were to lose one of those games, would they not make the NCAA tournament as an at-large? And the knee-jerk reaction is, of course they'd make it. But Bruce Pearl says, this is when they're 29-0, if we're selecting the 68 best teams, then Miami, Ohio is going to have to win their tournament to qualify as a champion because as an at-large, they are not one of the best teams in the country. This, of course, drove everybody nuts. Ari's posted on the Bama Online message board as a way to kind of troll Bruce because his son Steven took over for him at Auburn. Auburn's 16-14. They're on probably the wrong side of the bubble. So, like, I get why Bruce is getting killed for this.
This might be first of all, I want to say that localizing basketball topics to football is genius. And I'm so happy that we found this little niche because I do think that there's a lot of carryover to what we talk about on a year-round basis. And
the football committee selecting the teams, like they've had the committee for all these years, but it was selecting a 4-team playoff. It feels like it's more translatable now that it's a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and maybe even beyond, depending on how things go. But Andy, I know that conference tournament stuff is fun, and like it's a really fun time of year because it's like the appetizer to the NCAA tournament. But like, am I the only one who thinks it's absolutely insane that the regular season champ doesn't win it, doesn't get the automatic bid? Like, shouldn't the regular season
every
champ...
basketball coach in America feels the same way as you, and they get frustrated by it, but the conference tournaments are revenue generators. They make a lot of money off of them, so they keep doing them. I mean, we're going to talk about the Big 12 court probably all next week because it looks cool.
Yeah, I saw some really funny memes of people like saying the person who's in charge of the digital court got hacked, and like had pictures that were like hilarious on the court. But yeah, I just like that's the thing that would really bug me is like Miami, Ohio may or may not be one of the best teams in the country, but the tournament is so large and they're 30-0. It's like, how could you possibly leave a team that's 30-0 out? But on the other hand, now I can already hear commissioners in the conferences, he's talking about canceling non-conference games against big-time opponents because getting to 25 wins or 30 wins is more important than who you play, and it's just the same exact thing. So I don't really know where I stand on this because it's a different sport. It's like on one hand, I think getting to 30-0 probably is an indication that you're a pretty good team, no matter what conference you play in. But then on the other hand, too, it's like if you're going to relate it back to Auburn, who's a few games over 500, like who do I think would win the game? Like it's a really tricky discussion in basketball for sure.
Well, and let's take it to football because what have we been arguing about with football? Scheduling. Non-conference scheduling specifically, scheduling intent specifically. And we have gone after Indiana, Texas Tech, Penn State for scheduling bad non-conference schedules intentionally because they don't want to lose games. We went after Nebraska for dropping Tennessee because they said, what's the use of playing this game? It's not worth it. We talked about when Texas dropped Arizona State and its fans said, okay, now drop Notre Dame. We got on them. Now, Texas is still going to play Ohio State in the non-conference in football this year. So they're still putting themselves out there. Ohio State's still putting themselves out there going down to Texas. But I think all that matters. And I think why this is interesting. So we can get into the net ratings, which is what the formula that the selection committee uses probably the heaviest to determine where teams stack up. Care to guess in the net rating where Miami of Ohio is, Ari?
60s, 50s?
53rd. They are 53rd. Now, for those maybe who don't follow basketball as closely, in the net rating, there are these things called quad 1 games, quad 2 games, and essentially you are playing some of the best teams in the country and how they determine.
Do you think that football could adopt the quad system, by the way?
I don't think there's enough data points. That's the problem. I think with basketball, when you have over 30 games, it's a little bit easier. But it basically, it's how hard's your schedule. And like the old RPI was just your record, your opponent's record, and your opponent's record. All of those are factored into the net as well. And so essentially, it is a blend of your record, your strength of schedule, the strength of record metric they use sometimes in football. It's a blend of all those things together. And the thing it feels like the committee relies on the most when they're making these at-large decisions between power conference teams is your record in quad 1, quad 2 games. And those are your record against the best teams on your schedule. And there's a little extra weight if it's on the road, but it's who'd you play. Would you care to guess, Ari, what Miami of Ohio's record in quad 1 games this year is?
I don't think I'm guessing here. Is it 0-0?
It is 0-0. So part of that is they play in the MAC. So they're not going to get a bunch of quad 1 games in conference. So if you play in the SEC or the Big 10 or the ACC or the Big East, like you're going to have Big 12, you're going to have a ton of quad 1 games in your conference because the best teams in your conference are all going to be quad 1 teams. So in the MAC, you have no benefit of that.
But the quad means quadrant, which means it's broken to 4, right? So like
it's 4. So you want to guess how many quad 2 games they played?
0.
So this would be the second group of.
Is it 0?
They played 1 and they did win it.
Okay.
So they're 10-0 in quad 3 and 16-0 in quad 4.
And there's only 4 quads, obviously, right? So
yes.
How many teams are in each quadrant? This is a Bad at Math podcast.
Well, it's a quarter of the total number. I believe 316 Division I teams. So
okay,
it's just
so like they could have
scheduled
scheduled a quad 1 game against somebody that wasn't in the top 5. Like it's not like football where the numbers are like they could have played somebody who was ranked number 31 in the country,
or they could have sprinkled quad 2 games into their non-conference. Because again, it's basketball. You have double-digit non-conference games. You can't. It's not like when in football when Boise State was really good and they were the best team in the WAC and the best team in the Mountain West. People didn't really want to play them. Like power conference schools did not want to schedule them because they were dangerous. Basketball's not like that. They're not worried about if you're a good mid-major or low major, they'll bring you and play you. They're not scared because if you lose to them, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And so you have the opportunity to schedule those games. They did not choose.
So do you think that Miami, their schedule philosophy was designed in order to try to rig the system to get the 30-0?
No, I don't think they expected to be this good. I think it's just sort of worked out that way.
Right. So like it's like, you want to penalize teams that didn't make an effort to schedule big time games. And my assumption is that Miami could have found games if they really wanted to, right? Because it's not.
Yes,
there's so many more.
It is not like a really good mid-major in football where most teams won't want to play you, and there's only 3 non-conference slots.
Yeah.
Like there are double-digit non-conference slots. You can go take money to go play somewhere.
The thing that I think is interesting
good
about this is that there's the AP poll in football and the committee rankings in general kind of mirror each other in football.
Mm-hmm.
But Miami is considered a top 25 team in the AP poll in basketball, and Bruce Pearl's suggesting they're not even one of the 30 best teams in the at-large area.
But the ranking the committee uses is suggesting they're not one of the best 50 teams.
Right. So it's kind of confusing because it's like, what are reporters who are in the AP poll voting on? Just record?
Pretty much. It's a very much a football mentality.
Yeah. But there's a much wider gap between the data and the rankings in basketball than there is in football.
Exactly. For example, there was a game last night between Texas A&M and Kentucky. I believe they have identical records now in overall and in conference. And Texas A&M won the game, but Kentucky still ranked higher in the net because they played a much harder schedule.
Right. So we have to form an opinion here, right? Should Miami get into the tournament if they finish?
Well, I think my knee-jerk opinion when I saw what Bruce said was, of course they should get in. They're going to be like 33-1. What the heck? Why would you leave them out? But the more I look at it, I can't in good conscience complain about football schools intentionally scheduling bad to get into the playoff and then say you should let them in. They could have scheduled better.
Well, here's the other thing, because that's an interesting point, because it's like on one hand, if I say Miami should definitely get in, then I'm being a hypocrite in my football philosophy. But then on the other hand, too, there are so many more data points in basketball in terms of wins and losses in games and times to be exposed. Like if a team goes 11-1 in football or 12-0, regardless of the schedule, they're probably going to get in no matter what level they play in, right? Like there's no question about it.
There's a question if they play the MAC, if they're 11-1. I don't know that 11-1 MAC team gets in football.
No, but if a MAC team did if Miami, Ohio's football team won the MAC and finished undefeated, they would probably be.
But they won the MAC. Better question. They go 12-0. They lose the MAC championship game by 1 in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would also depend in football of who the MAC champion is and what their record is or what the other I mean, it's more complicated there. But if Miami's football team accomplished what Ohio's basketball team basically has already done, they would because like Miami's going to win the regular season MAC title, I assume, right? Like there's no question about that.
They've clinched it long ago.
So then you have to assert that same accomplishment to the football team. There's two separate championships in basketball. There's only one. Miami won.
They didn't. No. I just told you. Miami can go 12-0 in football and lose the championship game, and they are not the MAC champion.
I know, but Miami, Ohio's basketball team is the regular season MAC champ.
Yeah, but that's not the way the system works. You don't get the auto bid for being the regular season champ.
Right, but in the football you do. So but the only way that it's determined in football is by
in
winning
football
the game.
you have to win, but the football championship game is the equivalent of the basketball tournament.
Yeah,
because if you go 12, let's say well here's an example. Virginia had a better regular season than Duke in the ACC in football last year. Who's the ACC champion?
Yeah, I get you. So yeah. I mean, because the seeding in the tournament is based on your seeding in how you did in the regular season. So what you're saying, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Even though it's two separate titles in basketball, it's still the same kind of system. And there's only one game in football when there's a tournament in basketball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is tricky to me because on one hand, you also want to penalize the teams that like went out of their way to like schedule crappy so that they could game the system. But like Miami, Ohio just is a lot better and really good by accident in a way. And it's just like, do you want to penalize a team that accomplished that? Like it's wild to me. And also, here's the one thing that we never do, Andy, in football, and this might be the difference. We never penalize the smaller teams for not picking on the bigger teams. We penalize the big teams for avoiding other big teams. Like sometimes small teams have remarkable seasons.
But again, in football, it's different because you can't necessarily schedule those games. In basketball, there's no excuse. You can schedule them. But
nobody would ever call Miami of Ohio's football team soft for not scheduling Texas.
No.
Yeah.
But if they didn't try to schedule any power conference opponents, you would?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now they end up doing that. Most of the MAC teams do to make their budgets in football.
Yeah.
David Saylor, the Miami athletic director, did come out against Bruce Pearl this week. He said, "You are flat out wrong about Miami, Ohio basketball when you say we would finish last in the Big East. The disrespect is awful, and you should not be near a TV studio covering the sport when you show your true colors." Even slipped in a "we" when talking about Auburn. Nice work. All right. Miami of Ohio would not finish last in the Big East. Where would it finish in the Big East?
I don't know.
It'd be probably middle of the pack. Would it make the tournament if it was a middle of the pack Big East team? But the thing is, we don't even know. We can't even make that comparison because they didn't play anybody that allows you to make the comparison.
Yeah, which then makes me upset about football again because we need the crossover to compare. like
there you go. And that's why my knee-jerk reaction to this was, well, what is Bruce saying? He's insane. Has changed to, well, I can't have the same argument about football and then be a hypocrite here. I need to stay ideologically consistent. And so Miami of Ohio, Redhawks, go win the conference tournament next week. If you're going to lose Friday to Ohio and then win the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like they've been playing in a lot of close games, right? So
it was a 2-point game last night. Now, here's the thing that's interesting about the MAC tournament versus other conference tournaments. Other conference tournaments are built to give a very big advantage to the regular season champ. You have like some tournaments, you have like a triple bye where the number one seed, the team that won the regular season champion is into the semifinals even. And then a lot of them, they're into the quarterfinals automatically. Now, Miami's into the quarterfinals because it's an 8-team tournament, but they have to play this. Yeah. I mean, it's an 8-team tournament. Number one plays in the first round.
I mean, and the odds of them actually winning it are probably low. I'm looking at some of the scores and I see 100-61, and then I see 105-102, 107-101, 86-84, 73-71. I mean, it's just hard.
They had a buzzer beater to beat Western Michigan last week. So it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to win this tournament. Like, it kind of makes me want to watch the MAC tournament next week.
Yeah, no, I'm very curious to see how they land on this, Andy. I get really mad at people when they start comparing football playoff to the NCAA tournament, but I wonder if there's anything to glean in terms of the similarities here. But I'm going to also remain ideologically consistent and say, reward the teams that played harder schedules and fared well against those teams.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That probably gets you more power conference teams in. It probably hurts your Cinderella chances. But again, in basketball, you can go play somebody. I go back to Loyola Chicago, the year that they made the Final Four. They weren't undefeated that year.
Yeah.
But they went on the road and beat Florida in the non-conference. They went and played people. They knew they had a good team, and they went and challenged it.
Yeah. So I'm looking here too. Akron is 16-1 in the MAC and 25-5 overall. So if Akron wins,
right,
and their tournament, it's
more than likely going to see Akron in the final if all goes well for both teams. So
yeah, but it's not like there's a huge drop off between. I mean, there is in some cases, but the second place team in the MAC has only lost one time in the MAC, and Akron, I believe, played. They played Purdue. They played, but they lost by 50. So that's the other thing too. If Miami would have played a tough game and then lost by 20 to Purdue on the road, would we feel less adamant about their chances of getting in? It's just it's a bizarre thing because it's you play the game and then you lose the game. It's a data point that says that you shouldn't make it.
It is. The problem is you're taking these things you have to take them in their totality. The thing basketball has over football is the abundance of data points. If they played 33 regular season football games, it would be much easier to figure out who should make the tournament.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen in football. So that said, if you have the ability to schedule good non-conference games and you think you're going to have a good team, and remember, basketball, they don't schedule 10 years out like football does. Basketball, you schedule it kind of knowing the team you're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you're going to have a really good team, then sprinkle some more interesting games. For Miami of Ohio, they went on the road and played Air Force, but that's really they did not try to really challenge this team. And maybe they would have lost those games, but maybe if they'd only lost one of them, but they played a couple of them and had some wins that bolstered it, we'd be looking at them as maybe a better at-large candidate if they had a loss in the tournament.
Yeah. Wild.
So it's very strange. But it's one of those things where I was all on board with everybody just clobbering Bruce Pearl over this comment. And then I started thinking about it a little harder and realized everything I've said on this show, I should be backing what he said, not the other way around.
I mean, it does happen in football. If you are undefeated in the group of 5 in the regular season, and then you lose your conference championship game, and there's another conference champion with one loss, you're not going.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens all the time. So,
yeah. or if some other conference is viewed as better, or that other conference champion played a really tough non-conference game and won it, and you didn't.
We did this with Liberty. How many years in a row did we do this with Liberty?
Yep. So it's just very interesting. So Miami of Ohio, good luck. And again, if you're going to lose Friday. Don't lose next week. We head to KSR on the mega board. Kentucky Sports Radio. Lots going on in the world of Kentucky sports. The big story yesterday before the basketball team lost to Texas A&M was Mitch Barnhart, the longest tenured AD in the Southeastern Conference, started on the job in 2002. The man hired Rich Brooks as Kentucky's football coach, for goodness sakes, stepping down. And of course, KSR has already got a hot board out for the next Kentucky athletic director. And what's very interesting about Mitch Barnhart's tenure is there probably was nobody who fostered the careers of more future ADs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a big long list of people who've worked for Mitch Barnhart at Kentucky who are now sitting ADs, and it's kind of automatic to think, well, you're going to at least call and ask some of these people. Probably the most notable of these, Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne, Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullins, Florida Athletic Director Scott Strickland, Mark Coyle, the Minnesota Athletic Director, Dwayne Peavy, the DePaul Athletic Director. Like, it's a long list. Yeah. John Cohen was his baseball coach, and John Cohen's now the AD at Auburn.
Yeah. So, Andy, when you have what's the temperature right now for Kentucky? Are they ready for a change? Are they excited? Are they upset?
So ready for a change. So excited about a change. Not optimistic there's going to be a change. And the other news that we learned on Monday is why. So also Monday it came out that Mitch Barnhart has a deal with Kentucky that runs through August of 2030 that's going to pay him $950,000 a year to have this emeritus role. And I don't know if I'm the new person or if I'm a candidate to be the new person, how excited I am if the old AD who was there for 24 years is still going to be hanging around making almost $1 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, is that like a thanks for your service pension like title, or is that something that you rely on in terms of like decision making and like leadership?
This is the question I have to ask. This is if I'm a candidate for the job, this is a question I ask. I mean, this is so when Florida was open, and we just mentioned Scott Strickland, who worked for Mitch at Kentucky before he went to Mississippi State with Greg Byrne, and then eventually became the AD at Mississippi State. When Scott was going from Mississippi State to Florida, that job search or that athletic director search, there were people who didn't necessarily want in on the search because they were worried Jeremy Foley, the outgoing AD, the retiring AD, was going to have too big of a voice because he's a legend in the industry. He's still there. He's in an emeritus role. And so I think Scott has carved out his own place at Florida over time, but that was a concern among candidates when that job was open.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty big salary for no work, right? You know, sometimes people get, you know, an office and $300,000 a year, which is also a lot of money, but are kind of more like mascots than they are like actual functional decision makers.
You don't pay a mascot that much.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a good question because, you know, I'm also curious too, because, you know, he just made a really big decision with Mark Stoops. That's going to be pretty expensive. And, you know, how the timing of that's all kind of interesting to me.
It is very interesting. Now, there may have a decision to make with Mark Pope. Probably not this year. Mark Pope's their basketball coach. Probably not this year. Kentucky's going to make the tournament this year. I know the fan base is not happy with the results so far. We'll see what happens in the tournament. I don't think they have a decision to make with Mark Pope right now. But if the results are disappointing again next year, then there may be a decision for the next person to make. And obviously, having to hire a basketball coach at Kentucky is a huge thing. Mitch Barnhart, it should be noted, inherited Tubby Smith. When Tubby Smith left, he hires Billy Gillispie. Now, the former president of Kentucky came out on TV yesterday and said, hey, I was the one who made him hire Billy Gillispie. He wanted to hire John Calipari then. And then he eventually did hire John Calipari. So, and then, of course, there was the very public falling out with John Calipari and Mitch Barnhart. So this is going to be a fascinating search. Fascinating because you have these big names who you do probably need to call, but I would argue that Greg Byrne, Rob Mullins, Scott Strickland all have better jobs right now. Yeah. I don't think they're just because they work there and they like the guy. I don't think that necessarily means that they would come.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do athletic director job rankings mirror the football rankings? Like,
I think it's close.
It's like Alabama, one of the best AD jobs in the country because Alabama's got one. Like, is that how it works?
Well, is it? I think it's more like, do they let you do your job? Like, I think Auburn AD probably gets knocked down because there's this view that there's these warring booster factions. I think Tennessee AD prior to Danny White was viewed as a pretty tough job because you had warring booster factions that you had to
Texas
mediate. Texas, same thing. That Chris Del Conte's kind of gotten that under control. But I do think that's something. One other name I'll throw out is Mark Hill, their deputy AD, who I think it sounds like is a candidate for this job. So it's a question of, do they want to kind of keep what Mitch was doing going, or do you want to go outside and hire somebody new? And the other thing,
well, it's just a tough timing because whoever comes in may have to make a decision on the only thing that really matters there. Like, I think
football matters a lot too, but that decision was just made.
Yeah. But like, that's it. Like, I think your scorecard, and I didn't mean that like football doesn't matter. And I think he made a tremendous hire for football, but to come in and like already have a coach who's probably going to be on the hot seat in that job is like not ideal. But maybe it is.
And you've got to navigate whatever changes are coming in college sports. Like, the other thing is, this person also kind of needs to be able to predict the future and figure out how all this is going to work. How are the players going to get paid? How are you going to manage your budgets?
Andy, I think that like there are probably a large portion of people in the athletic industry that would be invigorated by that opportunity. Like, that's not something you would shy from. I think that might even be a plus.
And it also may widen the candidate pool. We're naming people who are already involved, who are already in high up in athletic departments.
Yeah, it could be anyone.
It might be that you go find somebody from the business world. It might be you find somebody from pro sports, because this is a different world now. Like, think how different the world is now versus when Mitch Barnhart started in that job in 2002. It is radically different. It's radically different than an AD who started in 2018 even. Yeah. So you have to figure all this out. You have to be part of that. Now, I do think Kentucky, one thing I will say, because a lot of this is, it's not all the AD. You know, the university leadership plays a big part in this too. I think if we look at the way they handled the football transition, which, as you mentioned, was a massive decision, because Mark Stoops, firing him was going to be very expensive. Now, he did them a favor and let them pay it off over time versus all at once, but it's still really expensive. It's a huge line item on your budget. That said, they didn't, when they hired Will Stein, they didn't go, well, we're sending all our money to Mark Stoops. Good luck finding players. They said, Will Stein, here you go. We are going to open the checkbook. Go get who you need to get. You want to make an offer to Sam Levitt? You go make an offer to Sam Levitt. Like, it was very aggressive, and it suggests to me that the president and the people who are running Kentucky are pretty bullish on being successful in not just basketball but football also.
Yeah, it's going to be something interesting to track. And I think that like every decision, like even when we were having this college football playoff debate yesterday and me on Twitter, it's like, and it's possible that in 6 years that actually 25 teams can win the national championship. But you have to make decisions now for the future when you don't really know what the future is going to hold, and that makes this job kind of tricky. And you have to hire a person that's going to be able to you have to be able to navigate it, and you also have to hire a person that's going to be able to navigate it.
Yeah, and meanwhile, this new AD may jump into the role and have to make a decision fairly quickly on the sport that the fan base really, really cares about and expects a national title contender every year. And that's a tricky one. I mean, it's interesting because we mentioned Greg Byrne because he's one of the guys that Mitch helped train. But Greg Byrne, he'd been in the Alabama job a while, but he had to replace Nick Saban. And you knew when he got the job, he was probably going to be the guy who had to replace Nick Saban. Imagine the pressure of that. Imagine the pressure of knowing your fan base expects a national title contender every single year, and you got to go find the guy who's going to deliver that.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine.
So good luck to whoever gets that Kentucky job, because that is probably the first thing you're going to have to wrestle with. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes out. But yeah, lots of big names because Mitch Barnhart was really good at training future ADs. So we'll see if any of those big names wind up actual candidates for the job. All right, let us move on through the mega board to the Bruin report. And this is where we stop to celebrate. Well, hey, woo! Welcome to Bruin Report. One of the new members of the On3 family. They've been doing a great job covering UCLA for years. We are so happy and proud to have them on board. And they have a lot of interesting things to talk about because they've got, well, we've played some Mick Cronin videos through the years, so he's always fascinating, their basketball coach, and they had a big win against Nebraska last night. But
so he didn't get mad?
He did not get mad. He was very happy. They played great defense. It was awesome.
Okay.
Their baseball team's number one in the country. Their women's basketball team's very good always. Corey Close, an excellent coach. They got a new football coach, Ari. Bob Chesney, who came from James Madison. Before that, he was at Holy Cross. He is taking over. And I think the UCLA folks are uniquely pumped about this one. I think they're really excited, and I think they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got a guy that was coveted. And he just looks like he would be like fit in right there, doesn't he? Doesn't he just like look like an LA guy? That guy's got a
Which is funny because he's the most northeastern New England guy you'll ever meet. Like right down to the accent.
You know, he got the surfboard. He's
got the shorts because he's been showing it. Like he showed up at the beach volleyball game the other night, and like he's showing that he's a supporter of everybody at UCLA, which is really good. And oh, by the way, I was wondering when this was going to drop this morning. They have a huge interview with Bob Chesney right now on Bruin Report, and so he outlines what he wants to do with this program and what comes next.
Yeah, it's a perfect welcome to the On3 network. And, you know, I would be pumped if I were a UCLA fan. I think that being able to go out and get him away from some other programs that wanted him inspires an investment in the university and in the football program that, you know, may have lacked in past years. Now, I have always been kind of confused by UCLA. At times it has felt hopeless, but I am old enough to remember when they could sign top 5 classes. They had top 10 classes in my lifetime. You know, they are in a very
like when Jim Mora was coaching there, they were getting good talent. They were getting players that everybody in Southern California wanted, or, you know, everybody in the Pac-12 wanted, but also players that everybody in the country wanted. It was not at the volume of some other places, but it wasn't like they couldn't get those guys. And so I do think Chesney is going to be able to do that. I'm laughing at the interview he did with the Bruin Report guys. He gets asked about winter workouts, and he goes, "First of all, let me just say winter workouts here," like air quotes.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who grew up in New England. So his idea of winter and their idea of winter, completely different.
Good for him. You know, moving from the snow to LA. What a life. I'm jealous of him.
This is your dream.
I know. It is. We got to get there, man.
To win more football games.
There. Yeah. Get the views up.
While we're on the subject of welcoming, let's move to a different On3 site on the mega board. Buff Stampede. Buff Stampede, of course, the excellent Colorado site that just joined On3. And our guy Pete Nakos already getting the Colorado folks ready with a profile of what Brennan Marion, the new OC, plans to do with the offense and with Julian Lewis, who's entering his second year as a quarterback there. And remember, Julian Lewis is still a redshirt freshman. You know, it was a question of whether Coach Prime was going to start Julian Lewis or Caden Salter. Remember, you and I were at Big 12 Media Days, and they bring Julian Lewis as a freshman. We're like, oh, okay, he's a serious contender for this job. Yeah, he's rocking the watch. It's his job now. It's his job. They actually, he was the starter at the end of the last season, but they held him out of the last game to maintain his red shirt. And we'll see what Brennan Marion can do with him, because, you know, if you've watched the show since we've been on, we've had Brennan Marion on a couple times. He's a very interesting guy. You know, he was the OC at UNLV a couple of years ago. He was the head coach at Sacramento State last year, and he brings the go-go offense, which is one he designed at the FCS level, basically to be effective if you didn't have a dominant offensive line. And it doesn't require, everybody thinks it's because it's got some option principles that it requires a running quarterback. It doesn't really. I mean, Jade Mayava was really good in this offense, and he's not the best runner in the world. But Julian Lewis, if he can be accurate, can be a very good quarterback in this offense.
Yeah. I wonder too if this is a nice maneuver for Brendan Marion too. Like we haven't really talked about Colorado quite a bit, and I'm like curious if you maneuver, go the offense coordinator, try to have a good year or two, and then you like put yourself as a prime candidate to take over there. Like, do you think that's the thought process?
To take over there or to get another power conference head coaching job? Because
like, how many years do we think Dion has left? Like, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I have no idea how many years he's going to hang on to this thing.
Well, right, because he had, beginning of last season, we were learning about his fight with cancer, and so we don't know. And look, if it goes the way last year did, I don't think it matters for anybody. If Fernando Lobo's their new athletic director, he's going to get charged with figuring out what to do after that. But if they do improve, then I would think Brendan Marion is going to get quite a bit of credit for that. They were originally going to have Robert Livingston as their DC. He left for the NFL, so Chris Marv, former Vanderbilt linebacker who's worked at Florida State and Virginia Tech, he's the DC now. It's going to be an interesting experiment. And then Marion, this is his first chance to run an offense in a power conference. Now we've seen him in power conference offenses before. Like he was Pittsburgh's wide receivers coach when they had a Biletnikoff winner.
Mm-hmm.
He then coached wide receivers at Texas. So he's coached this level before, but he's not called it at this level before. But if you look at his history, it's worked when he's called it at every level.
Yeah. And he's had a really interesting quote in the Q&A that Pete did. And he said that Julian Lewis is in the same arm class as guys like Quinn Ewers at that age, which I think is a pretty good compliment because Quinn Ewers has a live arm. So,
right.
I'm very curious to see how they bounce back. I think Colorado is fascinating, Andy, because, at the beginning of the Dion tenure, there were debates about whether Dion could ever lead them to the CFP or the national championship, even if he could accumulate enough talent to completely change the profile of the program. And now that we're a few years into it, he had a really good second year. They also had 2 NFL starters on their team that they don't have anymore. Like, is Colorado still a team that hopes and thinks it can compete at the highest level? Or is this like a, let's try to get the 8 wins and keep this thing respectable type of deal? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how much time Dion has left. He'll forever have my respect for fighting through the health issues that he's had to continue to do this. He does not have to do this. And I think that he wants to do this clearly through his actions. But in terms of like my thought, like I thought, the ceiling for that program was a lot higher than I think I currently do now. So, I don't know if yours has changed, but it'll be interesting to track. And I'm certainly excited to watch Julian Lewis because he was a 5-star quarterback.
Well, and I think the job's getting harder because think about guys we've had on the show recently. We had Joey McGuire from Texas Tech. We just had Eric Morris on yesterday. Texas Tech's not slowing down. They're spending money. They're going to have a really good roster. I don't think you can come away from hearing Eric Morris talk without thinking Oklahoma State's going to be quite a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Utah is probably going to stay good. BYU is going to stay good. Kenny Dillingham's still at Arizona State. They're going to be good. The Big 12 is hard. It's a hard place to win.
Yeah.
So is Colorado going to put the resources into the program? And that's more Fernando Lobo, the new AD. That's his job. He comes from New Mexico, where they did a really good job with Jason Eck last year in football. But can you do that? Because Houston's going to be good again this year. Willie Fritz did a great job in transfer portal. We'll see with TCU. They're very excited about the Harvard transfer quarterback, Jaden Craig. So this is not a place where if you are not resourcing the program at a high level where you're going to win. So, yeah. And if you look at Colorado's schedule, they get Texas Tech, they get Utah, they get Oklahoma State, Colin Klein coming to Kansas State. That's going to be tough. Colorado's home schedule in the Big 12 is rough.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Houston, UCF.
That's what it is. It's like becoming harder to differentiate yourself in that conference. And like when he took over, the Big 12 was kind of there for the taking because it was during the transition of Texas and Oklahoma leaving and all that stuff. You thought, hey, well, if he can go in and get a bunch of 5-stars to come in, he's going to be able to situate that. You know what didn't exist? Cody Campbell. Like,
I mean, he existed. He just wasn't paying like that.
He's not 2 years old, but like, you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't
Yeah.
doing what he had been doing for the past few years. So, like, I mean, the landscape of the sport has changed. And as much as I believe that Deion Sanders could have and should go get 5-star prospects, like, his smile and his charisma and his legend doesn't translate to a paycheck. So, like, I don't know. I don't know if the advantage that I thought that they had 2 years ago or the window of that advantage is closed.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. And Brennan Marion being where he is, I think Brennan Marion having head coaching experience helps too. That if you have another flare up or an issue that causes Deion to have to be away from the program, you got somebody who has recently run a program. That certainly helps. But yeah, I'm very interested to see the evolution of Julian Lewis, because he was one of those highly rated recruits that Deion did get. Now, Jordan Seaton was another one, and now he's at LSU. But this is one of the guys that Deion did go out and get that Colorado probably wouldn't have even sniffed before Deion Sanders was the head coach.
Right.
And Brennan Marion says, $1 million arm. And we'll see, because actually, if you're a good quarterback in the Big 12, it's worth a lot more than $1 million.
Yeah. More than that.
That's Brennan Sorsby. All right, Ari.
Or check the legal documents.
That's right. We moved to Gamecock Central. The mega board at Gamecock Central. South Carolina offensive lineman Josiah Thompson likely out for the season. So since we had Shane Beamer on the show, and I don't know if we're just bad luck. I feel bad. Like, I don't know if Shane should ever come back on the show again. I hope he does.
No, we're not doing that. We're not taking responsibility.
It's not our fault. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because since Shane's been on the show, Jacarius Peak, the offensive tackle they got from NC State in the transfer portal, hurt his knee playing basketball. They hope to have him back for the season, but they're not sure. And then Josiah Thompson has surgery, and he's going to be out for the year. Shane Beamer came out on Monday and said he does not anticipate Josiah Thompson playing this season. Now, I think when we peel back some layers here, Ari, some stuff makes more sense. Remember that Shane Beamer was surprised that Josiah Thompson entered the transfer portal. Remember that Josiah Thompson came back and said, I would like to stay at South Carolina. So possibly he did not have the market that he expected. Is it possible he didn't have the market that he expected because of the medicals? Because Beamer mentioned this is to repair an injury that he dealt with all last year.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I don't know how it went down, or, if that stuff comes out into play, or if he knew during the negotiations that that may or may not have taken place if he was going to be out for the season or not. I just know this. Like, we asked Shane when he was on the show if, like, Jacarius Peak would have been a person of interest with or without Josiah Thompson. And I think that I believe that, if I remember correctly, that he said
they were going to get him anyway.
They were going to get him
which
anyway.
May have meant that they felt like they might need a left tackle anyway. Yeah. Not one of them is going to be left tackle, one of them is going to be right tackle. But if Josiah Thompson eventually had to have surgery, that Jacarius Peak would be the left tackle.
The importance now of getting Peak ready for the season is massive. And I don't know, like, too, if you're like just getting healthy once fall camp starts or whatever, if like missing all these workouts and not being able to be your full self all summer is going to, hurt him in his quest to be one of the best tackles in the country. But boy,
I think he's got enough experience that this would be one thing if this was just a raw, great athlete who hadn't played very much, but he's played a bunch. So I worry less about that than him just getting physically ready and actually making it in time.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a tough break, but South Carolina has now dealt with injuries at two of their tackle spots. And that's not something without a second portal window that you can fix. That's all depth and recovery now. So I like Shane. I think he's an awesome guy, and I'm wishing him the best, but man, it's just a tough break for him. Two tough breaks. Maybe he anticipated one of them, but the other one he didn't. And
this is a brutal situation because the offensive line was their biggest problem last year. They did take a lot of steps to correct that, but Jacarius Peak was a huge part of that. So you got to hope you have him. At this point, we don't know what they're going to be able to get out of him.
Well, at least
their
first three games are forgiving. So even if Peak comes along and is a little bit late to the party, like they theoretically should win their first 3.
Yeah, their next 9 are not so forgiving.
Yeah,
Holy crap!
If you have Peak back, I think the difference between September 4th and September 25th is a pretty substantial amount of time for somebody in that physical condition. So even if he's not ready for Kent State, the hope is that he should be ready for Alabama on the 26th, and you could field an offensive line that doesn't, get Lenore Sellers' head knocked off.
Yeah, and that's it. So Alabama, Kentucky, Florida, and it goes on from there. Tennessee, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Georgia, Clemson. Like that's they've got Mississippi State to open the SEC schedule, and then you better win that one at home because then it gets rough from there.
Yeah.
Rough.
Good luck, South Carolina, because I was actually starting to come around as you being a sleeper this year.
Well, and then look, they still have Dylan Stewart, who is unlike really anybody else in the country coming off the edge.
In the world.
And they still have Lenore Sellers. They still have Nick Harbor. They still have people that other teams would covet that would play just virtually anywhere else. So I'm not ready to give up on them yet. It is incredibly frustrating for them. And I feel so bad for everybody there that they're having to deal with this. Ari, we go to Hogbeat for our final Mega Board story. The patch wars have begun.
That was a
Kyle
pretty big layup.
Yeah, I think we knew we had a couple finalists for Arkansas. It was pretty easy to figure out. It was going to be probably one of 2. So Arkansas announces jersey patch partnership with Tyson Foods. Kyle Sutherland posted this thread. Kyle works for Hogbeat. Tyson Foods, Arkansas-based company. You've probably eaten their chicken. $53 billion company. They made a deal with Arkansas to put the jersey patch on all 19 teams' jerseys. The red and the Tyson logo, close enough to the Arkansas red. Doesn't look that off-putting. But what's interesting about this deal, Arkansas announced that 90% of the money from this deal will go to the athletes directly.
It's huge. I'm all for it.
So this is how they're going to pay. Like the NCAA just allowed these jersey patches. We've seen LSU do it with a company that not many people know about. It's an energy company that does business in Louisiana, so it makes sense. We assumed it would be Raising Cane's, but it wasn't. This is one Ari. It was either going to be Tyson or Walmart, right?
Raising Cane's doesn't know anything about chicken compared to Tyson. Okay, let's be honest.
Raising Cane's can cook some chicken now. If they ever want to advertise with us, we're here for that.
They've got a great chicken. They don't kill as many.
Right.
When we first started working together and we would be on road trips, I'm like, Andy, how many chickens do you think have to die to feed the world every day? Remember, I used to ask you that all the time,
and then we looked it up, and
it was Tyson alone, like it's billions of chickens
a year. Yeah.
And I'm thankful for them, honestly. Like, I'm happy with my place on the food chain, but it does make a lot of sense to have a local plate. You want to indoctrinate yourself with the local businesses and stuff, and like I feel like, this is a nice partnership. It doesn't look bad on the jersey. And the best part about it, Andy, is that the players are the beneficiary of the income. And like, to me, like, I think that this is I have no issues here with anything.
Well, right. And look, the percentage of revenue that goes to the players is just going to go up probably until they have a CBA. And now they have to find more revenue to move, because the only other way to make the percentage change is to take it away from people who are already getting it, which would mean cutting people's jobs. So this is the sort of thing that will help people who are already working in athletics keep their jobs. And then it's a new revenue stream that can then go to the players. So you may not like the idea of a patch on the jersey. I don't really care. It's not European soccer where the logo is bigger than the team logo. We see it in the NBA. It's not that unusual.
It's a regional relationship too. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
it's some random patch of something. Like, I'm okay with it. And I think it's
Well,
good.
and it was interesting. So I went on the next round, the great show out of Birmingham, with Ryan Brown and Lance Taylor and Jim Dunaway, and they were talking about this topic. And Lance said something about, well, isn't it a little bit of an unfair advantage? And I was like,
What?
are we really talking about Arkansas having an unfair advantage? Like, after all these years of college football, are we really begrudging Arkansas for having a nice corporate relationship?
Yeah.
But I understand they're an Alabama-based show. And if you're Alabama, this scares the hell out of you. Arkansas has a multi-billion-dollar company funneling money to the athletes. Like Georgia, they've got Delta or Coca-Cola. That's like,
but this is legitimately what is supposed to happen. This is a legitimate use of advertising dollars.
Exactly. But if you're Alabama, who's that going to be? Because you don't necessarily have a company that's in-state that has a natural relationship. Now, it doesn't have to be an in-state company.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Can't they get McDonald's to do it or somebody? Like, I don't know.
I would bet they could. And they're a big enough brand that they absolutely can command that. But I'm fascinated to see who everybody ends up with. Our friend Gabe Eichert at Oklahoma, he put out to the OU fans, he's like, what do you want the patch to be? Now, I know Gabe. I know the family he's married into. He wants Loves, baby.
I mean, it's a great patch, too.
It's a great patch. Plus, the Oklahoma City Thunder already have the Loves patch on their jersey.
So at least makes sense, yeah.
Love's very high in my gas station power rankings, by the way.
What do you think?
Very high.
Where do you think? I mean, I don't know, because NBA is kind of an international brand now, and like people in China watch it. But like in America, the OU logo is more recognizable than the Thunder logo, right?
I would say so, yeah.
So I mean, it makes sense. But also, as much as I like the regionality of the Tyson Arkansas partnership, if you are in a place, because like that, what I would have said on the radio show, if somebody asked me they have an unfair advantage, I say you have one of the most recognizable and iconic football brands in the country. It doesn't have to be a company based in Tuscaloosa. Just go find somebody that wants their patch on your jersey.
Right. It's not going to be Archibald's Barbecue.
Yeah,
with a patch on the L.
Go get Pepsi.
Oh, I wish it was.
Like, I don't know where Pepsi's located, but you could go find a company that
Pepsi's from North Carolina.
Yeah, it'd be funny if like all the Fortune 500 companies got like boxed out based on regionality and the relationships with their local team. Like,
that would be hilarious.
Pepsi is probably Pepsi is, as an advertisement standpoint. Pepsi probably gets more from advertising with Bama than they would for NC State. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, I would much rather put my logo on Alabama's jersey than on North Carolina's jersey, even.
And maybe not the basketball jersey. I don't know, but like
That's
Alabama,
a pretty sweet jersey too.
I mean. But the Alabama logo, Alabama football, and then also their basketball team's really good. Like Alabama can find somebody. I'm not going to go to bed crying tonight because Alabama thinks it's an unfair advantage.
Producer River asked us, would Auburn put an Apple logo? I don't think Apple needs to advertise. Their CEO, Tim Cook, is an Auburn grad and a proud Auburn grad at that. It would be hilarious if Auburn could get the Apple deal with 90% of the money going to the players. Everybody on the message boards has assumed it's going to be Yellowwood. Jimmy Rain, the CEO or founder of Yellowwood, I don't know if he's CEO still. He is one of the biggest Auburn boosters. So the assumption has always been it's going to be a Yellowwood patch. But I think probably the Tyson Foods one, it is regional and there is a relationship there. John Tyson is the person who essentially bankrolled John Calipari getting hired as the basketball coach at Arkansas. Like, that makes sense. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your biggest boosters company is going to be the automatic bid winner here. Like, Auburn also would command a pretty big company. And so perhaps Yellowwood doesn't feel like it needs that advertising. By the way, speaking of Yellowwood, great commercial back in the day. If anybody wants to go down a YouTube rabbit hole, starring Steve Spurrier and Jimmy Rain.
Yeah.
For Yellowwood. It's on YouTube. It's hilarious. So, all right, let's see. Let's try to Pepsi in Alabama would make sense, especially if Georgia gets Coke.
Yeah.
Like you have the cola wars in the SEC.
Coca-Cola patch would look really good on the Georgia logo, on the Georgia jerseys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What's
It's
Ohio State's?
I mean, Ohio State's dealing with a whole other, like their most recognizable brand in Columbus is the limited brand. And if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world right now, that's probably not a good partnership.
I don't know. And you're not going to put the Victoria's Secret logo on your jersey. Probably not.
Yeah.
Producer River says a picture of Cody Campbell on the Texas Tech jerseys.
I mean, that would be pretty good.
Cody's not that much of a self-promoter though, so I don't think. And his company doesn't need the advertisement. Like they buy oil leases. They don't need to advertise.
Yeah, I'm like looking at the biggest corporations in Columbus, like Huntington Bank and Nationwide Insurance are there. Like, I mean, they have
Nationwide Insurance, which Nationwide advertises a ton during college football. That would make perfect sense.
And also their their hockey arena is called Nationwide Arena. So like that's probably like, I mean, Columbus, Ohio is a pretty big boon in industry. So, you know, the thing that I think would be interesting too, because like Honda is like has like plants in Ohio now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Ohio, but like think about like who gets Amazon.
Oh, well, I don't think Amazon needs to advertise, but here's one for Alabama. Mercedes. There's a giant Mercedes plant right near Tuscaloosa, and also Nick Saban deals in Mercedes these days.
I mean, everybody will find somebody. If your brand is big enough and, you know, people find that to be a good advertising tool, like there are more than 60 companies for your power teams to go figure out. Like, you know,
I'm glad you're not too precious about the jersey patch thing. Cause reading the message boards, it really seems split 50-50. 50% of the people, it just bothers the hell out of. They just cannot handle the idea of this rampant corporatization.
There's anything.
The other 50% is like, they already had a swoosh. What's the difference?
Yeah. Also, you know, if you're an Alabama fan and you're fired up about this, what is the number one thing that the greatest coach of all time who spent a large portion of his career at your school did? He adapted with the times and he stayed current. And you have to understand that as much as we want nothing to change, change is inevitable in life. Mm-hmm. And obviously the sport is undergoing a violent evolution in the moment. And if you want to win football games, so this whole mishugaz of a business is about, then you have to do the things that you do to stay relevant and to stay current. And the
Mercedes logo would look pretty sweet on an Alabama jersey.
Yeah.
Because it's a clean logo already.
Yeah. And also, once you see it on their jersey for one game, it will be like it's not there.
Could it be a houndstooth Mercedes logo?
Could be pretty sick if they could like do a partnership. But I think that the people that would do that would want their logo to be representative of their actual logo. So, but like, you know, Rivers saying Disney to UCF, like, yeah, Disney's a huge brand and they need to advertise.
Disney is the Orlando Magic jersey patch right now.
Yeah, but like the question that I'm actually going to have is Disney, if they get into this business, going to want to advertise with a bigger brand? Like that's the thing too. It's like just because UCF is down the street doesn't mean that they're the best harborer for their logo.
The question among the Florida schools, and I've seen this on the message boards and among the fans in the state, who gets Publix?
Probably like the team that has the biggest visibility and the best bang for your buck. Like for them, if they're doing it from a corporate,
I think Publix. I'm not sure Publix can decide. Like, I don't know if it's good for business for Publix to pick one over the other, though. Like, do you disenfranchise the Florida State fans by picking Florida or vice versa? Like, I don't know if you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Florida State got Publix. You have to wrap a crab leg around the P.
Is Publix its own company? Because I know that, like, because grocers is kind of hard to keep track. Like,
no, it's actually a very interesting company. It is owned mostly by its employees, so it is very Florida. Like, started in Lakeland, Florida, very Florida, even though it has spread out to most of the Southeast.
Yeah, but you know that's a really interesting point, though, Andy. If your brand is important to certain people in your area who happen to root for two separate schools, you do not want to disenfranchise people either. Because if Florida State people or Florida people would probably be petty enough to stop shopping there if they funneled money to the NIL program for the rival school, wouldn't they? Like,
yes,
I
agreed.
But maybe those people don't outweigh the vast number of people who will see the logo on TV when they watch it.
It's much easier in Arkansas, where they are the biggest show in town. You know, what Arkansas will command is very different than what Arkansas State will command. And
I'm assuming that the CEO of Tyson Foods or the people who run the show there also have an interest in seeing Arkansas succeed.
They're massive Arkansas fans.
That's not going to be the case in all the partnerships. Like, I don't think that the CEO of Nationwide Insurance, maybe he is or she is, I don't even know who it is, but like if they are a huge Ohio State fan, but if I were the CEO of Nationwide and I were an Alabama fan, I would want to spend the money to help enrich the program that I root for or that I have loyalty to.
I got one. Producer River, also great minds thinking alike here. Our friends at Culver's.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be the Wisconsin jersey patch, don't you?
I mean, Culver's was. I mean, I think they should rename the state from Wisconsin to Culver's.
That is the most natural fit. Now they have a blue logo, so I think you just have to go the white logo on the red jersey. But it's a perfect.
Would anybody
match.
be upset if the state of Wisconsin got changed to Culver?
Yes.
It would make so much sense.
They got a few other companies based there. There's a lot of interesting companies based in Wisconsin. So,
yeah, isn't Johnsonville there too?
Johnsonville is there, and as we learned last year when we did the draft with Culver's, the Culver CEO is married to the Johnsonville CEO. That's royalty right there. Royalty.
That's a power couple.
It's amazing. Oh, well, we will keep you apprised as the patch wars continue. There will be more patches. And let's actually, as we call out for questions for Dear Andy and Dear Ari on Friday's show, andystapleson3@gmail.com, ari.wasserman@on3.com. You can also hit us up on social media. Hit us with your perfect combos of company and program. Let's try to guess all the jersey patches in the power conferences.
Yeah. Maybe it's like USC get Universal Studios?
Maybe. Although Universal's in Orlando too. UCF could get them. Lots of options.
Arizona iced tea for Arizona State, though. No question.
Absolutely. Not for Arizona?
I don't know. I actually don't even know if the company is from Arizona.
I believe they're from New York.
They are. Yeah. We're going to have to Google where these companies are actually from.
Everybody hit us with your list, because I'm fascinated to hear what people think each program will match up with.
Arizona iced tea was founded in Brooklyn. Oh my God. What a lie. You liars.
You thought they were getting water from a spring in Tucson and then brewing up some tea?
Logos on there and stuff. Like, you made it felt totally authentically Southwest to me. Like, that sucks.
Listen, if y'all want to advertise with us, we're here for you.
Yeah, we are.
We don't have a tea yet.
We don't have a tea. We spill tea. We don't have it. That'd be a great segment.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.